Hi, we're Jonathan and Jennifer, and welcome to Cruise Gurus, our channel focused on helping you improve your cruise experience. And today, I think we want to focus a little bit about that point where you've decided you're going to go on a particular cruise and you've booked that cruise. What do we do to get prepared for that?
So you paid your money, but now the planning comes in. So the first thing we do is look at the itinerary and we build a spreadsheet. And it literally has, first column is every day of the week and date, and the time, and the name of the port is the next column, and the times that we're going to be there. The reason the day of the week is important is if you know you're there on a Sunday, depending on the port, it may mean that all the shops are going to be closed and businesses aren't going to be real active. If there's a festival going on, and usually the cruise ships are pretty good at avoiding festivals,
for obvious reasons.
Yeah. But we will know that either something is about to be there or has just been there, something like that. So we build that spreadsheet first.
And then we sit down and we talk about it. And it's our itinerary for that trip. And what we'll typically do, what works for us, is just a division of labor. We'll pick which stops each one of us want to do some research on.
And we pick that by saying, I really want this one, or I don't really care about this one. Do you mind doing it? Or
we throw darts. No, actually what we try to do is, first of all, focus on maybe what our special interests are. Yeah. So I do a lot of droning. I do some of the more serious photography. Not that Jennifer's photography isn't serious, but I do with big cameras, and I'm carrying a lot of gear, and I shoot video that way as well. And so if I'm looking, for example, on things we might do at a particular location that involve those things, I will probably start looking online for the best things to do at that location. I'm focused more on what it is that I want to do. If there are things I want to see, places I need to go, I try to identify those, and I look at the amount of time we've got that day, what time the ship arrives, what time I've got to get back. Think about things like traffic time and distances to those things. And at that point, I'll try to find either I'll try to decide whether it's something that I think we can do on our own by renting a vehicle, or something that we would really benefit from having a local guide or someone take us.
And I think I'm usually looking for kind of more active. I want to go kayaking, or I want to get into a really local experience, that kind of stuff.
You're saying I'm not active?
No, okay. That's going to be my priority. Is okay. And I thought this might be just a good place to say we don't always do the same thing in port. That every once in a while, we'll do something different. And
you mean not together?
Not together. Yeah. Not often.
Not often.
But every once in a while.
Yeah, and that could be. Because we do.
If I'm looking for a gondola ride.
Yeah, and Jennifer said I've seen 10 castles in the last 10 days.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll go kayaking and I'll go to another castle. But that's true. So, but talk about you're much more, I would say, you do a lot more investigation. So once you figure out what you might want to do, or maybe 2 or 3 possibilities, because usually, honestly, you will, when we get back together to try to mesh this all together, you won't just bring one thing to me, you'll bring 2 or 3 things.
Right.
But how do you decide?
Well, let me go, here's my process. So the first thing I do is I look at the ship's shore excursions. That's going to be a super general, what's out there and what do most people want to do. That's what they're offering. And then the next thing I will do is I'll go look at some of what I call the middlemen. So Get Your Guide or Viator or Tours by Locals. And I see what they're offering and what those kinds of experiences are. And Viator or Get Your Guide, you're going to get this huge variety of everything from sit on a trolley and go around town, which is not always a bad thing. That's often a really good way of getting to know the town, or getting, if it's a hop on, hop off experience, something like that. to some really private, exclusive kinds of experiences. They're going to take you up in a helicopter to go dog sledding with on a glacier or something like that. So I look for all of those kinds of things. And then I try and cut out the middleman. So I'm being upfront and honest, and I'm sorry to those middlemen companies, but our goal is always to get our money into the hands of locals. That's what we want to do. And I know that my guide is going to make more money if I book directly with them. So I will always try and book directly. Here's my little tips and tricks.
Is this a pro tip?
This is a pro tip. Pro tip. I will go to Viator or Get Your Guide or Tours by Locals, and I will see what's being offered, and sometimes they will even name the company that's offering it. If they do that, that's easy, and I just go on to Google and I Google that company and try and get to their website and book directly. A lot of times it's a one-man show, though. It's a single person or a couple or something like that that's started their own business and is just kind of doing their own guide stuff. For that, I have a fun story that it just happened in the last couple of days. We're going to Iceland, and I found a gentleman on Tours by Locals that offered some really interesting very off the beaten path kinds of tours. And I thought, yeah, I like that. Well, all you get on something like Tours by Locals is you get, like, his name is Justin O. And that's it. So I go do some investigative work at that point, and I go Google search Justin O, name of the town in Iceland that I'm looking for, and I might put tour or guide or something like that in there as well. Well, with him, I got a Facebook post. And so I went to his Facebook page and looked through it. And lo and behold, in the last 2 weeks, he started his own company and he was advertising that. And so I was able to click the link and go directly to his company and communicate directly with him, book directly through him that way. So yes, I'm using the middleman, but I'm using the middleman to get to the individual and try and go local that way also. And I will be real upfront with them once I have booked with them that's how I did it. I will tell them, I found you on Tours by Locals, but I really wanted to book directly with you. And I can't tell you how much they appreciate it. And I think that goes to that element of getting to know your guide before you get on land even. But so that's what I do. I find all of the kinds of things we might want to do, and he's absolutely right. I will come up with 2 to 4 things for each port that I think might be an enjoyable way for us to spend our time. And then we sit down again.
And we kind of work through that, and we may compromise on something that we both enjoy. It may not be our first choice. It depends. There's a lot of horse trading involved there, but I think we're pretty good at kind of resolving those things. And we don't want to simplify this. And while our natural bent, if you will, and inclination is to do it yourself, either where we're self-guiding, walking, hiring a vehicle, or hiring a local guide or driver to guide us. Both of those have benefits. We certainly think about a lot of things. We think about how much time we have. There is security in booking a ship tour that the ship's not going to leave you if you're late or something. While the private guide or driver can give you that same guarantee, they don't have any control over the ship.
Right.
They understand that's their business, and we are very clear about what time we have to be back, and usually we have a little fudge factor in there as well.
Yeah.
But there are also security issues. There are some places, whether it's traffic congestion or safety, there are places I just don't care to drive myself. So in those kind of places, I'm either going to go with a ship tour if it involves transportation, or I'm going to hire a private driver because I don't want to drive that vehicle. So, you have to do what feels right for you and your special needs and situation. But I will say for us, we've had uniformly good experiences, both when we've self-guided, hired vehicles, done our own excursions, or hired private guides, both professional guides who have special equipped vans and, come loaded for bear, with refreshments and all that, or just hired local drivers, maybe taxi drivers. And surprisingly, our experience on those is all really pretty good.
We have a channel about cruise ports, and one of the things, and Jonathan sort of touched on this, and I think it's really important to recognize, different ports have different elements that can make them really difficult to navigate. So if you are going to Seward, your private guide can't pull into the driveway like they could, and you have to go walk out of the port and meet them out on the road. If you're in a port that's in a very industrialized port, they probably won't let anybody walk off the boat. You have to get on a bus to at least get out of the port, and then you're trying to meet, so there's really different things. And I would encourage you, if you're going somewhere, get to our cruise ports channel, and we will give you the lowdown on those ports and how to get out of there and who can get in there. And those are some of the ports where it may indeed be easiest to go find your own guide, but get there someplace else, or to go through a ship excursion. There are times where a ship excursion is the right thing to do. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely, that's a good point. I mean, absolutely know that there are all kinds of ports out there. You can, sometimes you're tendering into ports, sometimes you're docking, but even when you're docking, sometimes you're miles from the center of town or miles from anywhere that you might walk to, that you're in an industrial area where these large cruise ships are sometimes docked, and you've got to figure out pretty quickly how to get into town. Is there a shuttle? And the cruise lines are pretty good at that, but the internet is your friend here, and channels like ours can really be important assets to identify. So you know how you're going to get about, how are you going to make arrangements, how much time you've got, whether it's free, what it's going to cost.
That's a good point, Jonathan, that if we have a tender port and we aren't in a suite, we know that we're not getting off at the time that if it says we're in port from 8 to 5, we know we're not going to be off the ship at 8. We can't do an 8:30 tour. So those we need to plan that probably 9 o'clock. If it's an 8 o'clock port time, probably 9 o'clock is the soonest we're going to be able to actually be with somebody. God, remember we had that horrible experience. We had hired a guide for multiple days in St. Petersburg in Russia. And I'm telling you, it took us 3 hours to get off that ship. And we weren't a tender port. That is on land. It was just going through Russian bureaucracy, essentially.
And I would say that day they weren't very happy. And so we stood in line for probably an hour just to have somebody look at our passport and say...
visas and okay it, yeah. So just recognize those things, and that's where I think, Jonathan, you always talk about cancellation policies, and I think we should probably touch on that as we begin to talk about how we book things.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of reasons why things don't always go according to your plans, even though we try to plan everything, we try to arrange it beforehand so that we think we know what time we're going to arrive and what time whatever we're going to do that day, what time we need to be off and ready to go. But things happen, weather happens, act of God, changes in schedules. Sometimes cruise lines have booked a port, but something happens and they're double booked and they will turn away ships, and it happens. So you have to be flexible. You have to allow for weather. And so we want to make sure that if we book something privately, that what their cancellation policy is, and that we can get a refund, that kind of thing. Right. Usually if you're doing a ship excursion, that's not a problem. They'll tell you when we're not going to be able to tender today, we're not going to be able to dock or something, and don't worry, we're going to take care of refunding all your on-board excursions, which is one of the advantages of them, along with they won't leave without you. But when you're doing a private tour, you need to allow for that and make sure that if, that morning the seas are rough and you're not going to get into dock or port at all, or maybe late, that your booked excursion is refundable.
Right. So in booking, this is kind of the next step. We've gone through our spreadsheet. We've given all of our ideas. We've horse traded and decided what we're going to do. And now we go and book them. And once we've booked them, we put all of the information for that booking on that spreadsheet. Yes, we print out a confirmation page, and yes, I carry that with me. But quite frankly, the easier thing is just to have it all in one place. So we fill in that spreadsheet with not just the time that the excursion starts, but if there's a report time. So most excursions want you to be there 15 or 30 minutes ahead of time, especially if it's a boat or a plane or something like that. They have things they need to do, a safety talk, and usually weighing you and weighing your bags, and if there's any special outfitting you need to do. So they'll tell you if they want you there 15, 30 minutes ahead of time, they'll tell you that. And we put that on that spreadsheet also. I am notorious for getting dates wrong and getting times wrong. So we have shown up at airports on days we don't have flights.
So we do a lot of double checking of each other.
Yes. And I think that's really important. And if we are having other people join us, we also send them that information so that lots of people have the information. Lots of people are double checking and looking at things.
Yeah.
And that is one thing we do, that we will often, if we're traveling with friends or if we meet friends on a trip, we will book for everybody and then we work out, reimbursement separately.
Makes it better. I think what part of what I've noticed is I think we make an effort to, during this process of booking it and giving them all of our information, we're building a relationship and we're making sure that they're aware of what we're really looking for, and that's particularly important. I think the smaller it is, if it's just the two of us with the driver, we want him to know that we're content creators, that we're going to be filming videos, taking photographs. We're going to want to stop. We're not driving by beautiful things. We're going to stop. We've got a drone. We might want a drone, and that helps them. They can be thinking about, okay, we got some folks here that want a drone. Where are the best locations? Where am I going to park? How much time do I need to know? So we've already tried to build that relationship before we get there.
That's super true. So if I'm booking a private tour, I always will message the person. It's never just I've booked it and I've filed the confirmation. No, I will always message them, and I use that as an opportunity to say, we are content creators. Are you okay with us doing video out the windows or attaching a GoPro to your car or
putting a mic on you?
Or putting a mic on you, yeah. Exactly.
And they usually are.
We've never had anybody say no. Right. Although we've had some that are better at it than others.
Sure.
So we use that opportunity to introduce ourselves, and by the time we get in that car, we already know a little bit about the person we're getting in the car with, and they know something about us. We also, at that time of those pre-trip conversations with them, we're sharing WhatsApp phone numbers and we're sending a picture of ourselves, so they know who they're looking for. And generally, they do a good job of sending a picture back or telling us, I will be standing by the green sign with a straw hat or whatever, their marker is, what kind of a car or something like that.
Right.
So that's really the process for us for getting from, we've paid money for a cruise and now we're going to start paying money for excursions and how we do that.
How we book them, yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us on this video. I think this was great for us just to rehash our process. I hope it was helpful to you to learn how other people are doing it.
We appreciate your questions and comments, and particularly if you got some tricks that you've learned or what works for you, we'd love to hear them and
absolutely
and share them with our viewers.
Thank you for that.